Welcome to Totally Talent Podcast by HR.com, your go-to source for all things talent. Whether you're looking for expert insights on high-volume hiring, the latest trends in recruitment technology, or strategies for building a winning team, we've got you covered. Join us for each episode as we dive deep into the challenges and opportunities shaping the talent landscape today. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Totally Talent at HR.com. I am your host, Mike Wood, and I'm very happy to be joined by another person I met at Transform a couple weeks ago, Mr. Jeff Pohl. He's from Warden AI. And Jeff, can you say hi to our audience and just tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone. Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me on the show. Delighted to be here. You can probably tell from my accent. I'm originally from Scotland, based in London, where our team is based, and also we spend a lot of time in the US with lots of US customers, and hoping to move over to the US, visa depending, in the coming year.
Yeah, visa depending is like normally it would have been an easy process or easier, but now it's a little bit. I'm not sure if Scotland has an official "don't travel to the U.S." policy up like a lot of the countries normally, but we'll make sure that if you get sent to the mysterious El Salvador prison, we will start a movement. We'll get you back and we'll get you home to your family. So
Appreciate that.
no problem. We're here. We stand up for each other. So tell me a little bit about Warden AI and what you guys do.
Sure. Yeah. So Warden AI is in the I guess quite nascent space of AI trust and AI compliance. So we help AI, well, both AI developers and employers who are deploying AI tools in HR to mitigate some of the risks of AI and get confidence to deploy and get the benefits of AI while protecting some of the downside risks like bias and compliance with these AI regulations that are starting to come into force in different
Yeah.
places, including in the US.
So I feel like the tech market likes to move forward, rush forward, and break stuff, but I get very nervous about AI in terms of the risk. I didn't tell you this before the discussion started, but my dad was a risk management person for an insurance firm for like 50 years. So I've had this like ingrained in my head always, what is the worst case scenario with anything that could happen? So that's just like how I think. And AI just, it sounds great, but it's really hard to trust it. It is really hard. And so I think that's where you guys come in. But it's like what are some of the risks in AI besides just, well, we could talk about bias too, but what are some of the risks?
Yeah, no, there's obviously there's a lot, and it's good to keep a focus on them. Sounds like you've got a good mind for thinking about risk.
I'm just afraid of
So
everything.
yeah,
So
right. So there's quite a few. I'd say one of the most, there's some that come over from like traditional software. So a lot about data privacy, data protection has been a risk in kind of software generally, that as a society we've got pretty good at caring about and putting in regulations in place. So that definitely translates into AI in a slightly new form of what's the data that's being used to train these models, and is that protecting data privacy. And then just as we use AI systems, as we share, personal or company information with them, what happens then to that data, and can it be leaked out to, external parties that we don't want it to get access to? So that is one category of risk. Then there's other categories that are a bit more novel to AI and new. So bias is one of those, where the question of whether the AI is systematically favoring or disfavoring certain groups in the way that it behaves is obviously a real problem we face in real life aside from AI, but takes on a slightly more kind of scary approach when this might be like codified into systems that systematically apply. And then there's just the more general risk, I suppose, of understanding how the AI works and explaining it, right? So it makes a judgment, say, or provides an output that someone then uses maybe in a way that affects someone's life materially. In HR, that's obviously a common thing. If someone's applying for a job, for example, and the AI is influencing them getting to the next stage, can it explain why that's happened, and then can we trust the rationale behind that? Those are some of the key risks, and then I guess knock on ones that if we get these things wrong, then we're looking at potentially reputational risks for for businesses that are using AI and it goes wrong. Looking at potential liability. Again, going back to that bias one of as an example of let's say discrimination. There's obviously liability around any instances of discrimination that get taken to court. I think another one that's quite important in this context is then, I guess, consumer experience. Like what impact is it having on, say, candidate experience or employee experience if we defer and bring in AI systems maybe in some cases in place of humans? What does that mean for their experience, and is that affecting then the brand's reputation and all these kind of knock-on effects? So quite a few things to consider.
Yeah, no, it's terrifying if I was on the edge of being like a buyer and I wasn't quite sure about a solution that I was evaluating, whether, the company folds in 2 years and I'm left holding the bag on any type of legal issues. One thing I tell people that are buying tech, I was like, get your legal involved early. They're going to be involved. Nobody wants to work with legal, but you have to work with legal. So, but get them involved. What are some of the things that, so how does Warden AI help companies
Yeah,
mitigate the risk?
sure. And also, actually, one side point, I realize long list of risks there. Like, I always like to balance these conversations up with the more positive angle as well. Like,
Oh, yeah.
personally, and the approach we take at Warden as well is like we're optimistic overall
Yeah.
about AI and its potential. We think it's inevitable, and there's a lot of great benefits. You just gotta do responsibly, right? Let's get these benefits while mitigating the risks as much as we can, rather than let's just focus on the risk and not do anything because it's so scary. So lots of opportunity and lots of good reasons to move forward with AI. So yeah, so what we do is, like I said, we work with both vendors who are selling it and also employers who are buying it to essentially evaluate these AI systems for trustworthiness. So we are in this new space that we refer to as AI assurance. So we come in as a third party with a third party AI assurance platform that becomes connected to the system and continuously tests and monitors how it technically behaves in its environment to evaluate some of these issues. We have a strong product around bias auditing, so technically auditing and monitoring how the AI is performing with regards to different demographic groups and whether we can identify and flag any potential bias or not, as well as looking at other or the wider scope of regulations, AI regulations that are at play or coming soon. And so our platform is kind of constantly on monitoring these potential risks, flagging them to relevant stakeholders if there are any issues, with recommendations for ways to mitigate them. And then conversely, if assuming the risks are appropriately managed and all is kind of going well, then we can communicate as a third party. Here's what we find, or are finding the system as how it behaves. Here is one reason why you can maybe trust this, or at least here's some information you can look into, where we provide information into how it behaves with quite a lot of math behind it if you want to get into technicals, but also to kind of layman's terms to then help the various stakeholders, users, whoever's involved in maintaining and using the AI system, that actually maybe things are okay. Here's some reassurance.
So what are the most important things that HR or TA leaders should be considering when they're evaluating these AI solutions?
Good question. I think the first things are fairly obvious, but important to keep in mind, which is particularly with all the hype and there's a very big marketing layer on top of what's actually possible and going on. So I think the most important thing is to check and question whether this AI solution that you're looking at or being marketed to actually relates to a real business problem or goal that you have in your business or yourself. And then secondly, does it actually move the needle materially on that business problem? Not just that yes, it's a problem it speaks to, but does it actually make a difference to that? And I think it's not an easy question to answer. And what's interesting about buying AI solutions versus traditional software is a trial is not as effective to test something out you think of like traditional software, some sort of user interface, you try it out, you try and achieve things, you invite your team, you click around, you try and manage a project or whatever it is that the tool does. With the AI, it's more about how well it performs at this task that maybe a person used to do instead of an AI. How do you evaluate that effectively? One of the ways is to use data, if you can, to like have a systematic way of evaluating maybe a selection of vendors using data. For example, if you're evaluating continue example of recruitment, which is one we work with quite a lot, you might have a list of candidates that you mark as like good fit or bad fit or something like that, and then you go and evaluate how different AI systems might score or rank or whatever their output is those different candidates in a way that you can systematically see how it compares to what you think good looks like, and then compare that across different vendors to make the right choice. It's not trivial; it takes a bit of effort to do all that, but that's the way. That's the kind of thing we're thinking about, and that's if you've got the time to do the way we see evaluating like AI solutions going to more sort of database kind of structured approach than just trialing it out.
Now, I see you guys as like an added layer of, anti-risk for a lot of the platforms that exist right there. I think you work with Beamery, you work with some of the big
Right.
recruitment platforms. Um, are you kind of like are you like that sidekick that kind of says, nope, everything, we're just checking to make sure everything's fine and it's good, you're good to go, and that's where you guys kind of sit, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I mean, I'm not sure what the caricature I would go for, but certainly the core to what we do is being a third party, right? So there's a lot of technical rigor behind our solution, which I'll spare your audience with in good detail if you want me to, to evaluate some of these complex things like bias and explainability. But in some cases, development teams will do that or have capability to do that. In some cases they don't, or don't focus on it. But even if they do, there's an incentive question of like, what's their incentives to communicate this externally. So we support with that, right? So we're like I said, we're a sidekick product that's kind of sitting on top of the CI system, examining it and reporting to the outside world. Here's how it behaves in regards to some of these risks.
So,
However, we can also
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, no. So what I was going to say is that like AI, the overall promise of AI is that it's going to take care of the mundane. It's going to give you some time back. And hopefully that time back is going to be, time that your team can spend thinking and innovating. But I feel like, with all, with the risk of doing something that is going to wreck your entire company and product, you might be a little bit handcuffed. So like, how does Warden, like, how do you help companies be innovative?
Yeah, it was a big question. I would say, by taking, I think if we're getting it right, and when we get it right, what we do is give people more peace of mind. I would say that was a big part of it, right? Obviously, there's a hard, technical rigor to evaluating these risks and sometimes finding issues and having to deal with that. But in many cases, I think people are almost more worried about the risks than they should be, and sometimes we see adoption not happening, but just because of like not an ill-placed fear, but like a perhaps unjustified fear in that particular context. Going again to this fairness and bias thing, which is a core focus of ours, we're seeing in most cases actually, AI is actually more fair and less biased than humans traditionally are, depending exactly how you measure it. And so, even if it's not perfect, it's maybe still an improvement even on that risk than the status quo. But people typically don't think of it like that because they're nervous about the risk of it. So I would say, that we're bringing delegating or getting support from us on some of these risk mitigation and monitoring can then bring a layer of peace of mind and confidence to actually adopt and get the benefit of an AI solution safely.
Yeah, I think it's a really crazy time right now because this technology is moving so fast. I'm trying to think back at when like mobile optimized stuff first came out, like kind of like the next big or the last big tech shift. And I feel like it took years for it to come out and be like really good. And I used to rail about like Chat GPT a year ago because it would hallucinate, it would put all sorts of crazy stuff out there. But now it's only been a year and it's a lot better, noticeably better. So, like, if we see, companies like yours, whatnot, like taking away that risk and making sure AI can move forward and like the potential is unlimited, like, where do you see AI compliance moving? As we like, let's say a year from now or 2 years from now.
Yeah, no, I think it's only it's in its infancy. Well, both AI is still quite in terms of like high risk and high reward AI, like really taking on like material tasks that people would do before can now be delegated to AI is in its infancy, and so there's a lot more to come on that front. And the more advanced it gets, obviously the more we can delegate these things to the AI, and therefore the more risky decisions and actions are being taken by it. So that's in infancy, and then this kind of compliance and risk piece is like even more in its infancy as a new thing to worry about in the context of AI. And so it's going to be huge changes and hugely more important, both from a regulatory point of view. Um, there's quite a few regulations that are signed but not in effect yet that happen next year. For example, Colorado, California, the EU has a big piece on regulation. Um, and the direction of travel is probably, I would guess anyway, more akin to the way that it's kind of security and data protection and compliance has gone. So, to go back 20 years, and you look at the level of focus and effort and energy and money spent on making sure that software and internet was highly secured, it was a fraction of what it is now. And anyone who buys or sells software, and certainly at the enterprise level, knows that it's a huge headache to like really go into and probe the level of security and that type of compliance. Whereas AI, people start to ask some questions, but they don't really know what to ask, and it sort of kind of just falls under the radar, or they just say it's such a big risk. No, um, I think what we'll see in the coming years and decade is a similar, if not even higher, level of scrutiny onto these advanced AI systems, and making sure that appropriate guardrails, appropriate regulations, appropriate monitoring practices, processes, all the rest of it are in place to give people confidence that it's safe to use. So hard to
It's
say exact time
yeah,
frames, but certainly in a couple of years' time, we'll see a lot more of that going on than we do today.
yeah. It's crazy. Like now we have AI generated candidates. So I could make an
Yes.
AI version of myself that has all the answers to the test or whatever interview that I'm taking, upload it and have it go. You're going to see a bunch of AI tools or maybe features from some of the major companies that will have this, is this candidate using AI type of filter on it? Is it fake?
That is so
Yes.
needed. I already know of a few products that are looking at that, and I know a number of people who've just, even in a low volume hiring in a startup or whatever, have been encountering on interviews candidates basically using ChatGPT, like reading answers out that there's no way they would say, um, and they kind of just like tell it. This sounds odd. And there are estimates that a lot of resumes now and just applications, like half of them uh, are AI adjusted, if not fully generated. So there's a bit of an arms race going on of like, people, particularly in that context of candidates using AI to their advantage, probably distorting what is truly them and the truth. And then on the other side, more and more employers needing to use AI to handle this volume and handle uh, the use of AI from the candidates. So it's definitely an interesting kind of arms race and spiral happening there.
Well, it's kind of just, in life in general. It's you look at like social media, for example, everybody's Facebook, if you're still on Facebook, whatever, it's always the best version of themselves. They're not putting the completely real version of themselves out there. So you have
Right.
candidates that are like, I'm not gonna show my warts, in this. I'm gonna, here I know what questions I'm gonna ask. What's the best type of answer? So I see more kind of like curveball type questions coming out there from people, more shut off your camera. Uh, maybe,
Right.
maybe we'll get back to the point where like there has to be more like in person type of stuff at one point because it's going to be a crazy couple of years. But I don't blame candidates for using AI to their advantage because it is so hard to break through the clutter. in
Absolutely.
any ATS system. I mean, your ATS is essentially judging your resume based on, your keywords and how you're putting yourself out there. Meanwhile, we don't tell candidates how to write a good resume. So maybe the AI is going to tell them how to write a good resume, and that will help them get through the process. And who knows? But it's a crazy time.
It really is. And or maybe we'll see changes to the standard recruitment process where, for example, with the rise of like AI interviewers or pre-screen, chatbots and so on,
Yep.
whether we just interview everybody with an AI. So first round, obviously it still goes to a human ultimately by all means, but first round interview, rather than just trying to guess from these AI optimized resumes that they're probably not true anyway. If you care enough for this job, have an interview with an AI as the first round, and get past that you're actually serious and that you've got the basic level of qualifications or whatever, and then get the real interviewers involved after that. I think which will take time for that, but got a personal opinion that will become quite a common practice because AI interviewers are infinitely scalable, so that can kind of overcome this resume sort of arms race that's going on right now. But see what happens.
Yeah, and it's like so my wife is a recruiter for a large hospital system in Massachusetts. And so she's constantly interviewing candidates, she's constantly screening candidates. She's doing the phone screen and whatnot. And I've told her, I'm like, your phone screen is going to be replaced with either a one-way video or some sort of way to screen people out at the front of the funnel. And she's like, that's great. But at some point, she's going to end up talking to these people to figure out whether they're the right fit or whatnot. So, but candidates will game the system, and they'll game the system in order to get through that screening process. And then you're still stuck at square one. So it's just like someone will figure out what the perfect mix is of human and AI. But it's an exciting time. I mean, I've used AI. I was probably, I guess I'm still kind of an earlier adopter, but like it really helps with, mundane tasks, taking notes, taking or writing emails and stuff so that you don't, so your communication is coming out well. I'm hoping that AI will eventually help assist people be better versions of themselves, in the future. So if people want to find a Warden AI, where do they go? Where are you going to be? Anything coming new? You're going to get to the States?
Yeah. So find us online, obviously, and then we go to quite a lot of HR tech conferences. So we met at Transform, going to Unleash in Vegas next
Okay.
month, the Tech America HR Tech Conference in Vegas again in September. So you can look out for us at those places. Otherwise, hit us up at warden-ai.com.
All right, and we'll start already collecting. I'll start a GoFundMe for your let's save you from the El Salvador prison that the secret police will throw you in. We'll get you back. Yes.
Stay mate.
You might stand out a little bit, so it might be easy to find you in the El Salvador prison. I think the red hair gives it away. But anyway, thank you for coming on the show today. I'm really excited about what you guys are doing, and I look forward to seeing you in person again sometime soon.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me. Been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Totally Talent podcast by HR.com. We hope you find today's episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to explore more episodes and discover valuable resources at hr.com/podcasts, where you can listen to all of our podcasts. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and making a difference in the world of talent.